Hello, and welcome back to the Argyle CMO Leadership Forum. My name is Eric Wallace with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our panel moderator. To ask questions during the session, simply type into the Q&A chat, and we'll address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without any further delay, I'd like to introduce our moderator. Today, our panel will be moderated by Jason Bahamundi, who is Adjunct Professor of Marketing at Southern New Hampshire University. We are excited to have Jason and our panelists for a panel discussion today titled Old Dogs, New Tricks, Breathing New Life into Email Marketing. Welcome, Jason. Over to you.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate the introduction. Before we get started, I'd love to go around the virtual table and have our panelists introduce themselves. Let's start with you, Jill.
Thanks, Jason. My name is Jill Delaney. I manage and lead our global marketing technology team for Bronability. We're a leader in the mobility, transportation, and solutions providing space.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And Lisa, love to hear, have you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Jason. I'm Lisa Perry. I am the founder of Captivating Solutions. I help businesses drive revenue using consumer trends and behaviors coupled with data analytics to innovate their approach to marketing.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So the very first question we have, I'm really excited about because it's something we discuss often with my students at Southern New Hampshire University, as well as with my company. And I'm going to address this question to you first, Lisa. So we've been hearing for a while now that email marketing is dead. What are your views on that?
Absolutely not. Just take a look at your email account and you will see that email marketing is not dead. Many businesses today use email marketing on a daily basis. Just go to any website and you will see signups for email marketing and newsletters. In fact, there are more email accounts than there are social media accounts out there. So here's some things to keep in mind that email marketing is not dead. It is more cost effective to reach consumers today with email marketing. Also, people sign up because they want to hear from you and they want to receive promotional content. And with technology today, it is much more cost effective to automate and personalize with email marketing. And just one last thing to leave you with digital marketing, it is the best approach is a multi approach to use, and email marketing can help bridge that gap. So if you think about it, if you use social media to reach out to prospects with some kind of a value add, well, then you get them over to your email marketing to sign up to get that value add. So those are some things to think about.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Jill, do you have anything to add to the idea that email marketing is dead?
Sure. I think Lisa hit on some of it. You know, I hear this and I hear it internally at our company and from other marketing colleagues as well. And I think back to when I first started out of college and I was brought in 18 years ago to start email marketing and kind of a digital platform and to move away from fax messages, which is kind of mind blowing now, right? And direct mailers. And so we sit in our office and as Lisa said, always looking at ROI, right? And kind of what drives the most revenue for the business. And it is kind of that multi-pronged approach. I think email has evolved so much and there is certainly a place and a need for it. I think in our business, we still would say email is king in the way that we engage with. I think there have been some changes across kind of Apple and some metrics that we can get and how we measure and how we're more effective. But as Lisa mentioned as well, like personalization and some things we're going to talk about today have enabled us to grow and improve our email marketing and supplement that with some of our other marketing campaigns as far as paid advertising, even direct mail and other methods and ways. I look at email as Lisa said, we're all in our email boxes every single day as kind of more of a long-standing communication source of something you can search for and go back to and use and leverage for a longer period of time now.
That's great. Thank you so much. So I think we're all on the same page when we all agree that email marketing is not dead. And so, Jill, I'm going to address this question to you as a follow-up in a way. So what are some email marketing techniques that you have seen have a greater impact on customers so that we make sure that it doesn't become dead?
Yeah, no, that's great. I think from our perspective, it's all about meeting the customer at the right place at the right time on the right channel. And so we do a lot of progressive profiling, preference centers, try to understand how and where a customer wants to receive information. Certainly my preferences are different than our consumers and different than others as well. And knowing when they want to receive emails versus text messages versus a direct mail piece or a phone call from someone, I think there's appropriate needs and times for each of those. So I think a lot of kind of our strategy and where we have gone is personalization and really kind of trying to use all that data and collect data at the right time to meet them where they are in their journey based off of what they're truly looking on and engaging in. I think there's a lot that we do with kind of incentivizing and making sure that the email gets to the point and really gives them something to read that they're interested in, that we know about them, and that it's personalized, and that we've moved from the what I call the batch and blast to the one-to-one messaging instead of the one-to-many, and making sure that we're building campaigns that are effective, and then we're using metrics to measure that on an ongoing basis.
Great. Lisa, I'll turn that question over to you as well. So what are some of the email marketing techniques you're using for your business as well as for your clients that you've seen have a great impact on customers?
Yeah, so I've recently worked in the higher education space, and one of the things that we use a lot there is automated drip campaigns. So and we found those very effective. So as prospects come in and they fill out forms on a site and go through and specifically say what their preferences and interests are, then we will then follow up based on their specific interests and preferences. We'll then personalize the email outreach to them based on what they've asked, and send an email communication to them, and then follow up based on how they're engaging. So then that will then be a process that we guide them through based on their either engagement or non-engagement, and we will keep following up through them based on that. And it can either be, for example, if they're interested in a specific, like a Master's of Business Administration, I'm just using that as an example, we'll send a follow-up if they're interested in that, and then continually following up if they continue to engage or if they don't engage. It depends on where they're through that process, or if it's an event, if they reach out for a specific event, we'll personalize that all the way through the process as they engage or not engage with us, depending on how that is. So it's a very personalized process that we go through based on their interests and preferences.
You guys are making my job as a moderator very easy, because we're talking about personalization here. And that's the next question I have for both of you. So Lisa, I'll start with you since you just mentioned it. What are some of the techniques that you're using to personalize your email marketing, again, for your clients as well as for your own business?
Well, one of the things, I've worked for so many companies, and we're constantly sending out emails as either the company or as a brand from us. And when we want to send out something very important that we want our audience to read or to take action from, then we look to send it from somebody that's very credible, that the audience finds credible, or that they relate to. And we find that individual, and we have it from that individual, written from them and from the email box. And we have found that once we do that, we send it from that person, personalizing it from them, we have a higher open rate and a higher engagement where they're taking action once we personalize it from that individual versus coming from the company or from a brand.
Great. How about you, Jill? What are some of the techniques that you guys are using to personalize your email marketing campaigns?
Yeah, a few things to add on to what Lisa mentioned. So we utilize dynamic content in all of our marketing campaigns through our technology. So I guess coupled with that, we have a CDP system where we're collecting. I think what we found was there are a lot of different business units or cross-functional teams that have data on customers in different systems. And our goal is to really integrate those systems together so we have one unified view of our customer, and we can understand every attribute about about them. And then from there, taking that and utilizing dynamic content in our campaigns that we're really speaking to them, as Lisa mentioned, making it as highly personal and targeted as we can and centric to what they're looking for. I think also from our perspective of we personalize, like automating when they're typically in their inbox, and using some technologies on kind of when we receive and send messages to them, as well as the content that's being sent to them, right, based off of all the information that we know. I think there's been a lot of time and investment on personalization, and that can get kind of down all the way down to the level of images that they're seeing in emails, as Lisa mentioned, kind of who it comes from, who they're engaging with. And then I think the last component of that, which Lisa started touching on, is the humanization factor, right? Of we're talking to people and they're human, and we really have to play on kind of that emotion and empathy side of it. And how do we do that with our tone, and how do we make it personal, because people aren't all created equal. So those are some of the tactics and areas I think that we're leveraging today.
It's interesting, the personalization level, right, can get extremely in depth based on the technology that we have. And so Jill, I'll ask you to follow up on that with this question. So how do you know when personalization is enough and when is it too much? In other words, is it just saying they're using their first name? Is it also including products and services that they've purchased in the past? What is enough and what is too much in your perspective?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think we're probably always kind of keeping that abreast of what we're doing here and we're looking at, right? I'm a consumer myself, we're all consumers. And so I talked about integration, and we're integrating our website to our email marketing platform, and making sure if someone's coming on the website and they abandon cart or they leave or exit, we're retargeting them with paid media ads, or, we're sending something via, if we have their email address and they're known, we're sending something to them via email, or somebody may even be calling. But to your point, when does that cross a line? I think we're in a very delicate industry, so we may be a little unique in nature. And we find that most of the time people want to have kind of a human touch point still at the end of the day. They want to talk to somebody. If they didn't engage on our website or via our email or kind of the platforms that we have, we find that they are open to having that human conversation. I personally think it can be a little big brother, and we kind of try to keep mindset of that line of what is appropriate and what's inappropriate, and then also, like, are we exhausting a consumer, right? We don't want to be bothering them too much, and we want to keep them engaged. We don't want to lose them, and so how do we do that in a delicate way, and how do we meet them kind of in the place that they want to be met?
So I'll turn that same question over to you, Lisa. Have you seen a place where you feel like, okay, we've now overdone the personalization?
I love what Jill said about the human touch. I think we all have to keep that in mind, because we sometimes lose that. But I wonder if people out there can relate to this of, you interact with a company or a brand, and then you get sent a question, rate my interaction. And you're like, okay, yeah, I can quickly rate that. And then boom, you get sent 10 other questions. And you're like, yeah, I'm out. It's now become bombarded. And that's where the line between, personal engagement and then intrusion, it's a fine line that you've got to manage. And that's some things, like, here's some things I'd love for you all to think about. It's quality, not quantity, right? And so we've got to find that right level of personalization to drive the brand loyalty and conversion, and not turn off the value that we're providing the customer. And then the second thing I think is really important is that there's value in silent approval. We need to recognize that every communication that we're sending out has impact, whether we see the immediate impact through analytics, right? Just because we don't have a response from our customer doesn't mean that they didn't see the message or they don't like your product or service. Silence can mean contentment. And so we have to keep that in mind and not just immediately react. And then the last thing I'd love for everybody to know is, don't make everything about rating your experience. And I think we overdo that, right? Asking everybody to rate the experience can be overproductive.
Jason, if you don't mind, I think Lisa hit on something I'd like to add to. She said kind of my key saying to my team internally and to our leadership team, which is really quality over quantity. And I think to us, it's about building a relationship with the consumers or the prospects. And it can be so challenging because your leadership team or your C-suite is really looking at ROI. And is this metric equating to sales? And to us at the end of the day, yeah, that's our end game. But I think we're trying first and foremost to maintain a relationship. And the last thing we want to do is somebody to, as Lisa said, turn us off because we bombarded them or we took a misstep or we didn't truly understand them and we didn't personalize properly. To us, it's about maintaining that relationship just like you do in person with your friends or your family.
Yeah. And Jill, you started it off with the human experience, right? That's what it is.
I think you guys have hit the nail on the head, and it actually helps address a question we have from the audience. And so, excuse me, Jill, I'm going to ask you to answer this question. So the question from the audience is, during the pandemic, we used email marketing a lot. They sell COVID PCR diagnostics. Now that their audience is a lot less engaged, they're interested in how to re-engage with both existing customers and prospects while competing with every other vendor.
Yeah, that's a great one. We have the same challenge and kind of fighting this battle ongoing as well. So I completely agree. During COVID, I think there was a much more of a digital push, and now, and especially, I think we've also fight this challenge most around the holiday season, right? We're not a retailer. We don't have Black Friday, and people's inboxes are completely flooded this season. And so I think being mindful of kind of how all of your campaigns connect. For us, we bucketize our audiences into kind of 4 groups of engagement, unengaged to engaged, in 4 different buckets. And as they move into kind of the unengaged bucket, how are we trying to re-engage them through other methods? Do we understand if they want to receive emails or not anymore? Where are they in their pathway and journey, and kind of why are they there? And making sure that we have that integrated connection to our paid advertising platforms, to our internal BDC or internal inside sales team that's having these conversations. If they're customers, I think for us, it looks a little bit different. We're really concerned about customer lifetime value. And as Lisa said, just because they're not engaged right now doesn't mean that they won't be in 6 months. But how can we use our data to better understand kind of why aren't they engaged? I completely agree with you that this is a time where kind of everybody's inundated with messages, and coming out of COVID, I think I mentioned it earlier, we're kind of going back to coupling our digital marketing with direct mail. And can we hit people in a different way, in a method? I know this is about email marketing, and kind of the same methodology is there of an old marketing practice, kind of a new trick to it. How do we connect all of it together? And I think that's the key to us, is do we have the right information to understand if they're engaged or not? And then how are we connecting it together? Because if they're not engaged in email, they may be engaged in another method or way with our organization.
Awesome. Lisa, I'll turn that question over to you. So how do you re-engage both existing customers and prospects while also competing with, other vendors in your space?
Yeah, I think Jill hit it really well. Is they may not be engaged in that specific platform. And so you need to find out, how best do they want to hear from you? It may not be email, it may be another platform. And so you do need to build a relationship with them to say, how best do you want to hear from us? And so keep engaging and keep your email list, keep refining your email list, and keep segmenting your email list to make sure that's updated. And then the other thing is offering value to your audience. If you're constantly offering value on an ongoing basis so that they feel that they want to engage, which is what I started with, is people sign up because they want to hear from you. They're getting something from you. It doesn't have to be a significant value like money or something of free. But if you are solving their pain points and you're constantly giving information that is helpful to them, they're going to reach out to you in some way via the platform that they find most useful. So figure out what platform that is and give them content that is going to help them. And they're going to stay engaged with you. You've got to figure out what their pain point is and solve for that.
I guess one other idea to add on to that, Jason, sorry, is it may be very tactical in nature. It sounded like something similar that Lisa was describing, as we have something called a win-back campaign, and probably most people do if you're not trying it already. But our win-back campaign, kind of as Lisa said, connects in what types of information are you interested in? If you're not engaged in what we're sending, would you be interested in these other types of things, incentives, etc.? And connects to our CRM, right? So as somebody becomes unengaged, it's alerting to our other teams internally that may be having conversations with them. It's alerting our dealer network and our partner network who are also engaged with these customers in different ways, that this person's currently unengaged in email campaigns. So they can have those conversations when if and when they're on the phone with them. But I think that may just be one thing to try if you're not already doing a type of win-back campaign, to Lisa's point, to really understand what they may be interested in and how they connect.
Again, you guys are both making my role here very, very easy because Lisa, you mentioned value, right? Providing value. And so I'm wondering if, why do people unsubscribe from email campaigns? Is it because they're not getting value, or is it that the company is bombarding them, shall we say, with email messages, or are there other reasons why people unsubscribe from marketing emails?
Well, one, they may not even have known that they signed up for your email. That's the first thing. The other thing is that they're just not into you. That could be it. You may not be providing valuable content, and that's where I kind of go back to you gotta fix your content, and you gotta make sure your content is right, that you're not spamming them, that you're not too salesy, that you're providing value to what it is, that you're not just constantly saying, buy this, buy this, buy this, that you are being a thought leader in your space and really driving value to them at an ongoing basis. And so sometimes that's why people are just like, I've had enough. It's just too much. So you've got to figure out in your lane what it is, and that's why some people just said, I've got too much. I can't do this, or it's constant. I'm getting emails barraged to me on an ongoing basis. Now, again, some spaces that's the cadence, and you've got to figure out the time and the preference of the audience. But those are some reasons, and I'm sure Jill can add some more. But those are some that I can offer here.
Yeah, I think Jason and I guess everyone out there, we're really trying to get to the why, right? Like most things across marketing, why did they unsubscribe? And how do we correlate that to, is this a close lost? Again, going back to kind of what the C-suite is interested in, is this somebody that's still in market, or is this somebody that is just unengaged or maybe not shopping anymore right now? And so for us, it's trying to correlate that unsubscribe to the why, into our CRM to understand, do they just not want information right now? Did they purchase something from somewhere else and they've moved on? At that point in time, is there another point? I think for some products and services, there is a need. And then once the need is addressed, it may not be an ongoing relationship. You may not have, as Lisa said, there aren't all instances where you're kind of that educational authority where you have loyalists for life. You may have addressed a need and then they're done getting information. I will be completely transparent. I'm always surprised. We have a customer loyalty journey. The number of people that unsubscribe from that journey, I got your product, I don't need to hear from you for a while. To me, that's alarming. But I think from our customer base, I satisfied my need and I have what I need. If I need something more, I will come reach out to you. And we do have instances of that where our teams will beyond conversations and on the phone. And hey, I noticed you're unsubscribed and you're calling in regarding some kind of service or a question. Would you like to be re-engaged now? And kind of what information would you like to be re-engaged with? So I think it just depends. And for us, it's more understanding kind of why they're unsubscribing and getting down to those metrics and looking at it kind of a finer layer.
That's awesome, Jill. Thank you. And I think that kind of also leads to a question that we just got from the audience, which is, can you talk more about the success you've had with those win-back campaigns as well?
Yeah, I think for us, the key is really to tie everything together to one cohesive journey. And it's all the digital touch points and in-person touch points and how we're communicating with someone to really make sure that we're driving success and we're also providing what they need to them. So for us, I think these win-back campaigns, they look twofold depending on if they're a prospect or if they're a customer in our system. And for kind of the success of them is, can we use paid media or a different method or channel to win them back? I think we've seen some significant success, as Lisa said, on the human side of, as she said, I didn't even know that I unsubscribed or I unsubscribed so long ago and I need this now. And I think sometimes that utilizing these, people just, they would, as you said, they're inundated with messages regularly. It's kind of like the unsubscribe, get out quick, but now I want back. So I am happy to give you my email address and contact information to go in deeper on kind of the more tactical side of it. But I think at a high level, that's a little bit about the success.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Lisa, I'll turn that same question over to you. Do you have anything to add to the successes that you've seen with some of the win-back campaigns that you've employed?
I think Jill really summed that up pretty nicely.
That's perfect. So then we'll go back to this. So with win-back campaigns and successes, Lisa, I'll ask you this question. How are you judging the success of your email marketing campaign, not just the win-back campaigns?
So it's, really the key metrics, right? The basics, open rate, conversion, click-through rates, all of that. I'm also really looking at the customer lifetime value and the return on investment on the overall campaign to make sure we're looking at the financials of it. And then, as Jill said, it really is a relationship building to figure out on a long term, how are we building a relationship with some of the long standing folks that are staying in the email system for a long time, and what's driving those, and then doing quite a bit of A/B testing to make sure that what's working, what's not working, and looking at those metrics to improve the segmentation and the targeting going forward. So those are some of the things that we're looking at on an ongoing basis.
Great. So, excuse me, Jill, I'll turn it over to you, and I'll ask you with an addition to that, though. Are you looking, when you're measuring your success rates, are you measuring them against your own data and your own company, or are you looking at the industry as a whole as well when you're comparing success?
Yes, so both. We are looking at ourselves and then we're looking at industry. So we have a digital maturity curve that we are is a kind of our North Star for our digital marketing, not just email, but email is a large portion of that, of course. And so kind of where are we on that digital maturity curve and how are we continuing to move the needle? And we measure that against kind of everyone in our industry and even adjacent industries. We can kind of be bucketed in multiple industries. So not just our competitors, but as a broad industry, how are we measuring up? We're working with our technology partners to develop quarterly reviews internally and externally with the partner bases on our utilization and our engagement. I think my team probably gets sick of hearing me say we can't take the likes to the bank, but we kind of have a very key performance dashboard and metrics where we're, as I mentioned, kind of connecting everything together and making sure that we can really, in most instances, try to measure the ROI of our campaigns, especially when you're getting into some of the kind of product solutions type marketing. I think when you bucketize the campaigns, not everything, something is brand awareness or education, as Lisa mentioned, and that's where we're looking at more traditional metrics. We use a scoring system. So we have engagement scoring. As I mentioned, there's kind of the four buckets that people fall in. We have a score of how engaged they are. And we're utilizing that throughout our metrics, as well as at the end of the day, is our email driving ROI for the business? Did this campaign return revenue? Did it increase calls? Did it increase website visits? How was traffic? Did we convert? So we're not just really, we try to get away from looking at like opens and clicks and really get to the tax of it of, are they converting, how, where, why, and are we increasing our sales based off of these different tactics that we're taking? And that's really how Lisa said we're A/B testing things, not just across email, but across all of our platforms.
Appreciate the answer. And so I'm going to go right back to you with this next question, because you mentioned ROI and you mentioned A/B testing. And so how are you continuously optimizing via A/B testing? If you have specific examples, that would be great, to help drive ROI.
Yeah, I think it starts small, right? And everything that we do, it's kind of the crawl, walk, run, which I'm sure everybody on here is very familiar with that approach and the MVP style. We start small. I think everybody's probably tried the subject lines and the images and kind of the CTA buttons. Those, of course, they're still within our strategy. I think we try to move above and beyond that now to really the personalization side and kind of the timing of where they are in the journey, and are we sending it at the right time and testing that. And then kind of the personalization elements, content elements, dynamic content, et cetera, that we're using to make sure that we're testing across our platform. So with our CDP system that we've implemented, we're doing much more testing and have kind of a true testing methodology and strategy of how we're doing that at a larger scale than just your standard subject lines, click-throughs, et cetera.
Awesome. Lisa, I will ask you that same question and then ask you to add on to that a little bit about, how does testing play a role in your email marketing campaigns?
So we're doing exactly what Jill is, but we're also refining our segmentation and looking at that based on consumers' interests and behaviors, and then modifying our segmentation or adding new segmentations to better refine our target audience, as then we add into our A/B testing.
I'm going to follow up on that question with you with regards to segmentation, because earlier we talked a little bit about when can you go over the line in personalization. So when you're talking about segmentation, are you talking about demographics, meaning age, females 25 to 54? Are you talking about behavioral? What does the segmentation look like, and what does refining that segmentation mean?
So yeah, we're looking at the age, we're looking at the location, we're looking at the demographics of them, we're looking at the behaviors of them, and we're grouping them into meaningful consumer segments, and we're continually refining them. We're adding in new segments, we're refining the existing ones to get better able at targeting who we're going after and grouping different having different segments that we can target our email campaigns to.
Fantastic. Jill, I saw you shaking your head as I was asking the question, so I'll turn it over to you. Like, what does segmentation look like for you when you're involved with your email marketing campaigns?
Yeah, I think Lisa hit it right. We have personas and we have very narrow audiences that are kind of always evolving based off of what we're learning about our consumers and how consumers are evolving and changing. And so making sure that we're hyper targeted and kind of that we're staying true to these personas that we have and the customer journeys that we have mapped out. I think one thing to add to what Lisa was saying earlier regarding kind of personalization. And I think somebody had asked it as well of if we're not engaging with them on email, can we engage with them in SMS and kind of mobile texting or an app or kind of another avenue of engagement with somebody on their phone. And so I think that's for us is kind of plays a role into the personas is really where they are. And I think everybody is very keenly aware the digital space is changing, right? Connected TV, new social platforms, smaller bite-sized chunks of information than kind of larger consumables. And so that's kind of an ongoing, constantly evolving strategy, just like our testing.
Again, you guys are making this much easier for me than I thought it was going to be. You mentioned TV, you mentioned social platforms. This is data. This is data. This is data. This is data. And it's so much of it. So how do you keep your data clean, usable, accessible, and compliant? And Lisa, I'll start with you, and then I'll go to Jill after that.
Well, it's making sure first that the email list is updated and cleaned. And so we're always doing that on an ongoing basis to get rid of unsubscribes, unvalidated. We're verifying the email list. We're making sure that the data is ongoing and regulated, working with our IT department, data storage and security, making sure that the data is stored and secured based on guidelines, that we have data retention policies and we're abiding by those, and we're constantly monitoring and reporting out. And so those are few things that we're doing on an ongoing basis.
Awesome. Jill, I'll turn that question over to you.
Yeah, I won't lie. I think this is the biggest challenge for most marketers is the data side, and it's not often always managed by kind of your digital marketing team, right? There's a lot of different cross-functional teams that are in the data. So as Lisa said, there's a whole governance model that I think implementing is really keen and beneficial. I think leveraging technologies to validate addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, kind of all of the information out of the gate before they go into the CRM, as they're going into the CRM. And we try to leverage as many automated workflows as possible to alert people when they're not. And to, as Lisa said, we have a very dedicated data team and data management strategy, and it's an ongoing job, right? And I always say it's everybody's job. It's everybody's job to maintain and keep the data clean. I think Lisa touched on it. You got to work very closely with legal teams and compliance. I think everybody probably is aware email laws by state are changing daily, and making sure that you're adhering to everything and you're keeping the right information in the right places, and making sure that you can get what you need, and that your email marketing team can segment and utilize the data appropriately, and that it is clean. I think the deliverability piece is one that kind of can be often overlooked, and those kind of sender ratings and scores and reputation that you have, and maintaining all of that is so essential and key, and leveraging technology and teams to make sure you have that appropriate data management, cleansing, and governance model is definitely key to success, but it is not an easy lift.
Absolutely not. So we have a little bit under 10 minutes to go. So I'm going to go to some questions from the audience. And Jill, I'll start with you. AI is being talked about in just about everything you can possibly imagine these days. So are you finding that large off-the-shelf marketing platforms / solutions are starting to incorporate AI into their systems as well?
Yeah, I think AI is exciting, right? I mean, when we say AI and my team and probably across most marketers, we've been using AI for a while of, hitting people automated in their inbox when they're in their inboxes, those types of technologies. Now that we're in generative AI, I think it opens up a lot of doors of efficiency. I think everybody's probably aware it's probably not where everyone wants it to be yet, and that you've got to kind of slow walk it and dip your toe in, and definitely understand compliance and be aligned with your legal team on that, on what you're utilizing and how you're utilizing it. I think for us, it opens up doors on content creation, areas where we spend a lot of time, or we're leveraging other teams, even to get the ball rolling to create kind of a creative brief or foundation for that email response, not just across the digital marketing team, but across the sales, the service, kind of the other teams and platforms that are communicating with customers. So I think we're excited about what AI can bring and the efficiencies. There's a lot to that, to rolling it out in the right way across the business, and making sure that you do it in a compliant way. So as you said, it's all the buzz right now, understanding AI and what's the best way to implement it. It's exciting times ahead, I think, for all marketers, and there's a lot of benefits that will come.
Awesome. Thank you. So Lisa, I'm going to turn to you for a different question. So the audience member said they're getting a lot of unsubscribe requests to their marketing emails. Do you have any suggestions for them so that they can stem that tide of unsubscribe requests?
Yeah, I think you've got to go dive into the why, figure out what's going on. One thing is reaching out with surveys or seeing if you've actually got their contact information and picking up and calling and asking, but see if you can uncover what's going on, and they'd be open to having a chat with you to figure out the why behind that, seeing if there's any analytics to try and find out the timing or the information around who, the type of people, really doing a deep dive into to try and understand that is the first place that I would start to look at. I'd also start to look at my content, what type of content, my email myself, like what's going on with my email, has it changed? What does that look like? Really start to take a look at yourself and what's going on. Have you made any changes? What does the timing look like? The days, all of that, your demographic of your people, really start to do a deep dive yourself to look at that. Because typically what I find is it starts with myself, the emails and what we're doing, and it can be fixed there first. And that's really the biggest thing. The next thing is really just trying to offer some kind of a value or incentive to get people back. But really it's the first of a deep dive of the why and what's going on and uncovering and fixing there.
So would you say also, because this is another question from the audience as well, is finding your why, reviewing your own emails, is that something that they can do to also increase their open rates for the emails that they're sending out?
Yeah, so really it's about what is it that you provide that's of value? What is it that people are going to be compelled to sign up? If you are providing value and they want to get it and they continually come back, they are going to sign up. They are going to want to get that content on an ongoing basis. And so you've got to figure out how to do that. And so that is your purpose, your why, your what is gonna drive them. And the ones that do it really well have it. They've got their brand personality nailed to a T. They know how to communicate that effectively, and they've got their content mapped out and are driving that and giving people a value on an ongoing basis. And you'll see that they share, people who've got an email say, oh, you got to check out this email that I'm getting this content, and they start to share that. And so you really should spend the time honing in on why are you doing an email? Why is it? Don't just do it to do it. It's a lot of work. It is a great deal of work. So don't do it just to do it.
I think Lisa, and maybe I'll leave it with this, Jason, if we're wrapping up, is Lisa hit the nail on the head, and it seems so simple sometimes. WIFM, what's in it for me? We have a kind of a WIFM checklist or scorecard. And then as she mentioned, everything has to have a business value matrix. And, why are we doing this? What value does it bring? How are we going to measure it? At the end of the day, if we can't measure this, we're not going to do it. And if it's not going to bring value to our consumers in any way, again, we're not going to spend time doing it. But it sounds so simple sometimes, but it's the hardest thing to do, right? Is not to talk about yourself and your products and your services and how proud of your company you are, but to put yourself in the consumer's shoes and really how are you delivering them value, and then how are you kind of quantifying that across. And I think every project needs to kind of center around and start with that and end with that. And if not everybody understands the goals and the value that's being brought and how we're going to measure it, then we maybe shouldn't be doing it right now.
Lisa and Jill, thank you guys so much for joining me on this panel. I'm going to turn it over now to Eric as we wrap up this session, but thank you so much. Very informational.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, panel, for that insightful discussion. I also want to thank everyone in the audience for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event.